All right, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to Port Reading Community Day 2020. I know with the state of the world we're in right now with the COVID and everything, it's a little bit different Port Reading Day. We weren't able to do a lot of things that we normally do, but it was very important to have this event this year because we're going to recognize a very special anniversary for the town of Port Reading. First of all, I'd like to thank my committee that we have for Port Reading Community Day. I want to introduce everybody. We have Councilman at Large Brian Small, who's our Vice President of the Council this year. We have Jessica Rositas. We have Annalyn Zullo. We have Joe Zullo. We also have on our committee, who's not here, Danny Nimitz, Lou Huber, Nick Cinorelli, and Larry Malosha. So I want to thank everybody. So just a little background, this year we didn't know if we were going to have the event, and the committee, we really didn't meet, and we were kind of talking back and forth if we were going to have the event. But then, you know, we realized this year that a big cornerstone to this community is the Port Reading First Aid Squad, and it is the 50th anniversary. So this year, every year we pick a Citizen of the Year from Port Reading to honor. And we thought it was just appropriate and an honor to recognize I believe it's the 28 founding members of the Port Reading First Aid Squad who happens to be celebrating their 50th anniversary in Port Reading. So let's have a big round of applause. And just quick, on behalf of me, I could just kind of tell you that anybody from Port Reading, really, this building, these bays right here, whether you're with the fire or you're with the first aid, kind of has a place in everybody's heart. You know, I remember being in high school and hanging out here because a lot of my friends were on the Port Reading First Aid Squad. Brian Small, I think he started here when he was like 3.5 years old. He started here and just hanging out with everybody after school coming here because they were all members of the squad. Brian, I remember Joey Figaro, Matty Mercurio, Al Burns, Bob Cinorelli, everybody, Frankie Sutphin. They were all members here. And this is where we used to hang out. This is where we grew up. I was even a fireman for like 2.5 years in the mid-'80s. So we all grew up in this building. So it is an honor to be here today, you know, honoring the 50th anniversary of the Port Reading First Aid Squad. So another individual I like to bring up to the stage is a friend of Port Reading, is our mayor, John McCormick.
Thank you very much. Let's hear for Brian Small, Woodbridge Board of Education member and the Recreation Director for the great township of Woodbridge, for his leadership of this committee. And I said Small, I keep confusing these guys. Molnar. Brian, no wonder nobody clapped right away. Why'd you clap for Brian Small? Come on. Brian Molnar, I'm sorry. They've been probably getting confused their whole life. But seriously, Port Reading is a great, tight-knit, very cohesive community. I have so much respect for everything. As Brian said, this facility right here is so important to the fabric of Port Reading. So congratulations on having 50 years of the First Aid Squad. I'd like to introduce some of the people in the audience. Our 19th District Assemblyman, who is all over the state all the time, but took the time to be here at 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon with us, Assemblyman and Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin. Your 3rd Ward Councilman from the suburb of Avenel, Corey Spiller, himself involved with the Avenel Fire Department. We have our Councilman at Large, Greg Ficara. From our Board of Education, we have Dan Harris. And I just want to mention the 5 people that have been honored by the Port Reading Day Committee in the past, and that is our former Mayor Joe DiMarino, who just passed this year. We honored him, among others, in the ceremony back on September 20th at the high school. His wife and 2 sons were there. Former Mayor, former sheriff, former police officer, you name everything. Sanitation employee, he's everything to Woodbridge Township. He was Woodbridge for his entire career. Councilman Bob Molnar was honored by Port Reading Day. Former councilman, former freeholder Vinnie Martino was honored by Port Reading Day's committee. Brian Small himself was an honoree. Bob Cinorelli over there somewhere was an honoree. So let's hear for all the past honorees of the Port Reading Day committee. And I have a proclamation I'd like to present to Brian as the chairman of the committee, to the Port Reading First Aid Squad, 50 years of dedicated service. And it goes on and repeats the things I just said for all the executive officers, line officers, trustees, EMTs, and all those who have served the rank of Port Reading First Aid Squad for the past 50 years. Congratulations. Thank you, Brian. And I have proclamations which I'll leave, but I know Brian's going to read the names. No need to read them twice. So I'll turn the floor over to Brian now. Turn it over to Brian Small to read the names of the 28 charter members of the Port Reading First Aid Squad. What's up, man? Hello.
Richie, hold this. Come here. Just hold this for me. Thank you, Brian. Thank you to the committee. I appreciate you honoring the 50th anniversary of the First Aid Squad. It means a lot personally to me. A little background. Richie Krusch is the vice president of First Aid Squad. His father, along with my father, were charter members, and we're talking 50 years of our names being here, and it means so much to us. At 4 years old, this started in my life. Being a part of this building, being a part of this organization. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of people come and go. We've seen a lot in Port Reading. It is a tight-knit community, so there were days where you went on some of these calls and it just wasn't pleasant. But there's more fond memories than there are bad memories. So looking out in the audience, I see my good friend Bob Cinorelli, a life member. Bob and I went to kindergarten through high school together. I can remember us being in the 5th, 6th grade talking about when we could join a First Aid Squad. It seemed like a lifetime, but when we turned 16, we came on, and we've been here ever since. I just want to talk a little bit about Richie here. So, Richie was also a volunteer fireman, and we're talking about perseverance. So back in 2001, I was fire chief, and Richie was my assistant chief, and I was away in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and we had a house fire. And when it was done, I got a phone call. And they said, you better call Richie because I think he's not feeling well. So I called Richie and I said, hey, what's up? And I could tell in his voice something was wrong. He says, I think I ate some smoke. He said, I'll be all right. So I said, Rich, who's there? And he named a couple of firemen. I said, put him on the phone. So I put him on the phone. I said, I don't care what he says. Get him to the hospital now. It turns out Richie had a heart attack. But 3 months later, he's back with us, and the perseverance he shows. Then it gets a little worse, because as a first aider for all these years, while on a call, while loading a patient into an ambulance, Richie drops and goes into cardiac arrest. If it wasn't for the Woodbridge police and his partner being as well-trained as they are, he might not be here today. So here we are. Richie is a model of a volunteer.
Thank you.
As Brian said, we had a big day planned for this. We had a committee, and just like everything else, everything came to a halt with COVID. Whether it was a wedding or a birthday party or whatever the event, it just seemed like everything had to be stopped, replanned, or really dwindled down. So we felt, since most of our charter members that are left with us are in their 70s and 80s, we just didn't feel like it was appropriate to ask them to come here today. But I can tell you this, when this all goes away, we will be having a big party. I'm going to read the 27 names of the charter members, the original 27 men who started this great organization. John Abline, Kenneth Allering, John Burns, Louis Canillo, Robert Dado, Robert D., Frank Despoto, Robert Fisher, Wesley Krusch, Joseph Lamont, Joseph Lanzelotti, Robert Lehman, Peter Lessick, Raymond Lebeski, Vito Mazza, Steve Pastor, George Rand, Patsy Rinaldi, Robert Rohde, Louis Rotilli, George Sable, William Safran, Francis Small, Arthur Smith, George Sukovich, Harry Vizzacaro, and Anthony Zoba. With us today is a very honored guest. It's the first captain ever of the Port Reading First Aid Squad, Kenny Allering. Kenny? So I recall a lot of things, but one of the things that stands out being a young child was the squad had the 1962 Cadillac, and they were getting a new 71 Cadillac, a brand new ambulance. And I remember my father being on the phone with quite a few of the members. And I guess the great debate was, what color is the new ambulance going to be? Was it blue and white, brown and white, red and white? It was a big debate. The squad was split, blah, 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 blah. I was all excited. I told my dad to vote for blue and white. And I waited for him to come home, and I said, what color? He says, two-tone green. I said, two-tone green? He says, yeah, Mr. Hess bought it for us, so we had to go with his colors. So, as the mayor said, I want to thank the original Board of Fire Commissioners, our current Board of Fire Commissioners, everybody that's volunteered here or paid for a great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brian. And you could tell by Brian's voice how much this building, means to him, his family, and to everybody here in the town of Port Reading. As Brian mentioned, I'd like to thank our current Board of Fire Commissioners for allowing us to do this ceremony here. We used to do it over at School 9, and then we moved it here. Commissioner Joe Zullo, Commissioner Kenneth Galvach, Commissioner Bob Cinorelli, Commissioner Steve Weber, I think that's and my personal favorite commissioner, sorry guys, Joanne Molnar. And we also like to thank Peter and Greg Shabanko, the funeral parlor, for doing the food. They do it every year for us. Everything we do at Port Reading Day is free. Also Sean Bukowski, and also the best dressed short order cook in the world, Doug Dieter. So we like to thank everybody for being here. We had a good day. We got food. We got music. What's that? One more thing I gotta do. We got food. We got music, and we got the great music of Gary LaBar, who's Johnny Apollo. And Brian just has one more thing to say.
Thanks, Brian. I don't want to skip anybody. I just want to thank the Port Reading Fire Company for all they've done, the Ladies Auxiliary, and the E-Board of the First Aid Squad. Myself, I am the president, Richie's vice president, Erica Mitchie is our treasurer, Sean is our new secretary, our chief is Michael Barcelona, and I just want to thank Steve Weber, who's not here today, but for all he's done for this organization. Thank you.
All righty, so now I'm going to turn it back over to Johnny Apollo. He has a way better voice than me. Sit back, listen to some good music, have some food. We got some beer. We got just a good time. And thank you for being here.